The research station called Gentle Dawn floated in the darkness of space. It was a small station, shaped like a flower with 6 long arms reaching out from its center. Inside lived 37 scientists who had come to study the strange glowing plants that grew on the nearby moon. They were a peaceful people. They had soft silver skin and 4 thin arms that moved like branches in the wind. Their eyes were large and kind, the color of morning sky. They had never known war on their home world. There were no hunters there, no dangerous animals, no need for weapons. They had grown up learning art and music and the secrets of healing plants. Ambassador was the oldest on the station. She had lived for 200 cycles and had seen many wonders in the galaxy. Her silver skin had faded to pale white with age, but her mind was still sharp. She spent her days in the botanical garden, caring for the glowing mushrooms she had collected from the moon below. On this day, she was teaching her granddaughter about the purple flowers that bloomed only in starlight. The young listened carefully, her 4 hands holding a small pot of soil. Then the alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed through the corridors. The station shook as something hit it from outside, grabbed her granddaughter and pulled her close. "What is happening?" asked her voice trembling. Through the window they saw them. 3 black ships, ugly and covered with weapons, coming closer and closer. The ships looked like insects made of metal, with sharp points and glowing red engines. Whispered, the word felt like poison in her mouth. They were raiders. They traveled from system to system, attacking the weak and taking what they wanted. They were tall creatures with hard shells covering their bodies and blades growing from their arms. They felt no pity and showed no mercy. To them, peaceful species like them were nothing but easy targets. The station had no weapons. They had never needed them. They had shields, but the guns were already breaking through. "All crew to the center hub," the captain announced over the speakers. His voice was shaking. "Everyone gather together. Maybe they will just take our supplies and leave." But knew better. She had heard stories of what they did to their prisoners. They did not just take supplies, they took people. Another explosion rocked the station. Somewhere below, heard metal tearing and screaming. They were cutting their way inside. Was crying now, her large eyes filled with tears. "Grandmother, what do we do?" Held her granddaughter tight. Her old heart was beating fast. She had lived a long life and she was not afraid to die, but was young. She had so many cycles left to live. Then remembered something. A story from long ago, from when she was young and served as a diplomat for the Galactic Concord. 300 years ago, a new species had been discovered on a small blue planet called Earth. They called themselves humans. When the Concord found them, they were shocked. Earth was a death world, a planet so dangerous that nothing should have survived there. The gravity was crushing. The weather was violent. The animals were deadly. Even the tiny invisible creatures called bacteria could kill. But humans had not only survived, they had become the masters of their world. The Conquered had been afraid of them. Many species wanted to keep humans locked on their planet, away from the rest of the galaxy. They said humans were too dangerous, too violent, too unpredictable. But had spoken for them. She had argued that humans deserved a chance. She had seen something in them that others missed. Yes, they were strong and fierce, but they were also kind. They formed bonds of friendship that lasted lifetimes. They protected those they loved with everything they had. The Conquered had listened to her. Humans were allowed to join the galaxy. And humans never forgot those who helped them. Said her voice suddenly calm, "Go to the communication room now." "But grandmother." "Go, there is a special signal, one that we have never used. The code is hidden in the emergency system. Look for the file called Earth Protocol." Stared at her grandmother with confusion, but she did not argue. She ran down the corridor toward the communication room, her 4 legs carrying her fast. Turned and walked toward the center hub where the other were gathering. She could hear the getting closer. their heavy footsteps echoing through the metal halls. In the communication room, found the hidden file. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a simple message form and a string of numbers that pointed to somewhere far across the galaxy. She typed quickly, "Station under attack. Raiders, 37 aboard, please help." She pressed send. The signal shot out from the station at the speed of light. It bounced from relay to relay, crossing vast distances in seconds. It passed through 17 different stations, each one pushing it forward faster and faster. On Earth, in a city called Seoul, the signal arrived at the United Earth Defense Network. A computer recognized the emergency code and sent an alert to the highest level. Admiral Park was sitting in a meeting room, listening to a report about supply routes. He was 62 years old, with gray hair cut short and a face marked by decades of service. He had fought in 3 wars and led countless missions. Very little surprised him anymore. His communicator buzzed. He looked at the screen and read the message. For a long moment, he was silent. The other officers in the room watched him, wondering what news could make their admiral so still. Then Park stood up. His chair scraped against the floor. "Cancel all other business," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute command. "Wake the Third Fleet. Every ship, every soldier. We leave in 10 minutes." A young officer blinked in surprise. "Sir, what is happening?" The admiral was already walking toward the door. "They are calling for help. Ambassador's station is under attack." Another officer asked, "But they are so far away, and they are not even part of our territory." Admiral Park stopped at the door. He turned and looked at his officers with eyes that had seen too much death and too much suffering. "They spoke for us when no one else would," he said. "They gave us a chance when the whole galaxy wanted to lock us away. We owe them everything." He opened the door. And humans always pay their debts. The galaxy was old. Thousands of species had risen to the stars over millions of years. They had built great civilizations, created beautiful art, and learned to live together in peace. The Galactic Concord kept order among them, helping different species work together and solve problems without violence. Most intelligent species came from gentle worlds, planets with calm weather, stable ground, and few dangers. Evolution on these worlds was slow and peaceful. The creatures that became intelligent did so by working together, not by fighting. Then the Concord found Earth. The first scout ship that entered the solar system sent back a report that shocked everyone. Earth was classified as a Class 12, one of the most dangerous planets ever recorded. The scientists who studied it could not believe that anything intelligent could survive there. The gravity was heavy, much stronger than most species could handle. The planet tilted on its axis, causing wild changes in temperature from season to season. The star it orbited was harsh, sending out waves of radiation that could damage living cells. The atmosphere was full of oxygen, a gas so reactive that it could start fires and eat through metal. And that was just the beginning. The planet was covered with predators. In the seas, there were fish with hundreds of teeth. On land, there were cats that could run faster than vehicles and bears that could tear through metal. In the smallest pond, there were invisible creatures that could enter a body and kill it from inside. Even the plants were dangerous, some filled with poisons and others covered with thorns. The weather was violent, storms that could flatten forests, waves of heat that could kill in minutes, cold so extreme that water turned to stone. The ground itself was unstable, shaking and breaking apart, sometimes spitting fire from below. Any other species would have died on such a world, but humans had done something impossible. They had not only survived, they had become the dominant species on the entire planet. They did this through stubbornness. Humans simply refused to die. When the cold came, they made fire and clothing. When predators attacked, they made weapons and fought back. When disease spread, they learned medicine. Every challenge Earth threw at them, they found a way to overcome. They also did it through endurance. Humans could not run as fast as many animals, but they could run longer. They would chase prey for hours, for days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. They called it persistence hunting, and it was terrifying to other species. Humans would just keep coming, never stopping, never giving up. And they did it through bonds. Humans formed connections with each other that were stronger than steel. They would die for their families, for their friends, for complete strangers who needed help. This loyalty was built into their very nature. When the conquered first made contact with Earth, many species were afraid. They wanted to keep humans contained, locked on their dangerous planet where they could not threaten anyone else. The debates lasted for years. But Ambassador of the had spoken for them. She had visited Earth and walked among humans. She had seen their violence, yes, but she had also seen their kindness. She watched them care for sick animals. She saw them risk their lives to save strangers from floods. She observed their art, their music, their stories of heroes who protected the weak. They are not monsters, she had told the conquered. They are survivors, and survivors understand the value of life better than anyone. Her words had changed the vote. Humans were allowed to join the galaxy. Now, 300 years later, Lieutenant Commander stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Indomitable as it raced through fold space toward the station. She was 34 years old, with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had fought in 3 combat deployments and earned medals for bravery. Around her, the crew worked with silent efficiency. Every person knew their job. Every person was ready. "Time to arrival?" asked. Ensign Myra checked her screens. She was young, only 23, but she was one of the best navigation officers in the fleet. 7 minutes, Commander. The ships are still at the station." Nodded. 7 minutes. They just had to hold on for 7 more minutes. She thought about what she knew of the. They were raiders, pirates who attacked weak targets and ran away before help could arrive. They were strong fighters, with armored bodies and natural blades on their arms. They had terrorized dozens of systems over the centuries. But they had never fought humans before. They came from an easy world. They were apex predators there, the top of their food chain. Nothing had ever challenged them. They thought this made them strong. They were wrong. True strength did not come from having no enemies. True strength came from facing death every day and winning anyway. It came from fighting against impossible odds and refusing to quit. It came from a world that tried to kill you from the moment you were born. Humans had that strength, they did not. "Commander," another officer said, "message from the Admiral. All ships are to enter standard combat formation upon arrival. No quarter protocols are authorized." No quarter, that meant no holding back, no mercy. Felt something cold settle in her chest. She did not enjoy killing. No good soldier did. But they had attacked one of the gentlest species in the galaxy. They had attacked the people who had given humanity their chance among the stars. "Understood," she said. "Pass the word to all weapon stations. We fire the moment we exit fold space." Myra looked up from her console. "Commander, do you think we will be in time?" Thought about Ambassador, the elderly who had stood before the entire conquered, and argued that humans deserved freedom. She thought about the 37 scientists on that station, peaceful people who had never hurt anyone. "We will be in time," she said firmly. "Humans do not abandon their friends." She looked out at the swirling colors of fold space, rushing past the windows. "And we never forget who helped us when we needed it most." In the engine room below, technicians pushed the reactors harder than they were designed to go. The ship groaned with the strain, but it held together. Human engineers had built it to survive far worse. In the weapons bays, soldiers checked their rifles and loaded ammunition. They were calm and professional, moving through practiced routines. Each of them knew why they were going into battle. Each of them was ready. In the medical bay, doctors prepared for casualties. They set up beds and organized supplies. They hoped they would not need them, but they prepared anyway. That was the human way. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And on the bridge, watch the countdown timer tick away. 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 4. Soon they would learn why the galaxy called humans. Soon they would understand what it meant to threaten the friends of Earth. Commander of the stood in the control room of his flagship, watching the attack unfold on his screens. His armored body clicked with satisfaction as his warriors moved through the station below. Everything was going exactly as planned. They were pathetic. They had no weapons, no soldiers, no will to fight. His warriors had cut through their hull in minutes and were now moving through the corridors, gathering prisoners and valuables. Some of the plant eaters had tried to hide in small rooms. Others had simply collapsed on the floor, crying and begging. It was almost too easy. Was a veteran raider. He had attacked 50 stations and 100 ships in his long career. He had taken thousands of slaves and stolen enough treasure to make himself wealthy beyond measure. The key to success was simple: attack the weak, take what you want, leave before anyone can respond. The station was far from any patrol routes. By the time anyone knew what had happened, they would be long gone. Reports ordered. His second-in-command, a named, appeared on the screen. He was inside the station, his blade arms red with blood. We have secured the lower levels, 30 prisoners so far. The rest are hiding in the center hub. Good, break through and take them all. We leave in 1 hour. Turn back to the main window. Outside, his 2 other ships circled the station like predators around wounded prey. Their weapons were ready in case any foolish rescue ship appeared, but was not worried. No one would come in time. Then his sensor officer made a sound that had never heard before. It was something between a gasp and a scream. Commander, multiple fold space signatures, many signatures. Spun around, what, how many, where? The sensor officer's claws were shaking as he pointed at his screen. Everywhere, Commander, they are everywhere. The space around the station began to tear open. Fold space was how ships traveled faster than light. They created holes in the fabric of space and slipped through, emerging far away in an instant. When a ship exited fold space, it created a brief flash of light and energy. Watched as 37 flashes appeared around his ships, 37 holes opening in space, 37 ships emerging from nothing. They were human ships. He recognized them from the intelligence files. Sleek and angular, painted in dark gray and blue. Each one bristled with weapons that they had only heard rumors about. Cannons that fired metal at impossible speeds. Lasers that could cut through the strongest armor. Missiles that could follow their targets around corners. At the center of the formation was the largest ship had ever seen. It was 10 times the size of his flagship, a mountain of metal and death. Along its bow, someone had painted words in the human language. His translator took a moment to process them. We remember our friends. For the first time in his life, Commander felt something he had never experienced before. It was cold and sharp and made his legs feel weak. It was fear. A transmission came through on all frequencies. Every screen on every ship showed the same face. It was a human male, old but not weak. His hair was gray, his face was lined with age, but his eyes were steady and calm. He wore a uniform covered with medals and symbols of rank. I am Admiral Park of the United Earth Defense Fleet, the human said. His voice was quiet, but it carried power. You have attacked a vessel. They are under human protection. Stared at the screen, 37 ships, against his 3. He tried to calculate the odds, but his mind would not work properly. You have 90 seconds to surrender unconditionally, the Admiral continued. Release all hostages. Power down your weapons. If you comply, you will be taken prisoner and treated fairly under galactic law. The Admiral paused. When he spoke again, his voice was even quieter, even colder. "If you refuse, we will destroy you." So officers were looking at him. He could see the fear in their eyes. Some of them were already moving toward escape pods. But was a warrior. He had never lost a battle. He had never run from a fight, and he would not start now. Besides, the humans were bluffing. They had to be. No one could have responded so fast. These ships must have been passing by. There could not be many soldiers on board. If they attacked quickly and fiercely, they could break through and escape. "All ships," commanded. "Attack formation. Target the large vessel. We will create an opening and flee." His weapons officer hesitated. "Commander, their guns are already aimed at us. If we—" "Do as I say," roared. We fear nothing." He opened a channel to the human admiral. "We will not surrender. You think your size frightens us. We have killed bigger prey than you." The human's expression did not change. Not a flicker of anger or fear crossed his face. 90 seconds has passed," Admiral Park said simply. "You have made your choice." He turned to someone off-screen. "All ships, open fire." What happened next would become legend across the galaxy. The human ships fired as one, 37 vessels unleashing their weapons in perfect coordination. The darkness of space lit up with streaks of light and fire. Shields lasted 3 seconds. 3 seconds against weapons that could punch through solid rock. 3 seconds against technology forged on a world where survival was never guaranteed. The ships began to break apart. Watched in horror as his fleet was torn to pieces around him. One of his escort ships exploded completely, turned to scrap metal and ash in an instant. The other lost its engines and began to spin wildly, fires spreading through its hull. His own ship was hit again and again. Each impact shook the deck beneath his feet. Alarms screamed, lights flickered, smoke filled the air. "Retreat," screamed. "All ships retreat." But there was nowhere to go. The human fleet had surrounded them completely. Every direction led to more guns, more death. A new message appeared on his screen. It was from the human admiral. "You should have surrendered." Then a boarding pod slammed into the side of ship, then another, then 5 more. The humans were coming aboard. Grabbed his weapons and ran toward the nearest breach. Whatever happened, he would die fighting. That was the way. He did not understand yet that the way had never faced anything like humans before. He was about to learn. Lieutenant felt the boarding pod slam into the ship. Metal screamed against metal. The pod's cutting tools burned through the enemy hull in seconds, creating a hole large enough for soldiers to pass through. "Go, go, go," he shouted. His squad poured into the ship. There were 8 of them, all wearing powered armor that made them stronger and faster than any unarmored human. Their rifles were loaded with ammunition designed to pierce shells. They had trained for this kind of fight for years. Was 28 years old. He had grown up in a small town near the mountains, where his grandfather had taught him about honor and duty. When he joined the military, he found his purpose. He was not a man who enjoyed violence, but he was a man who would do whatever was necessary to protect innocent lives. The corridor inside the ship was dark and filled with smoke. Warning lights flashed red. Somewhere deeper inside, could hear the enemy moving, their heavy footsteps echoing through the metal halls. "Squad, form up, watch your corners. These things are fast." They moved forward in pairs, covering each other as they advanced. The ship was a maze of twisted corridors and sharp turns, perfect for ambushes. The first came at them from a side passage. It was huge, nearly 3 meters tall, with a shell of dark armor covering its body. Its arms ended in blades that looked sharp enough to cut through steel. It was fast, faster than expected, but not faster than human reflexes trained on a world where hesitation meant death. 3 rifles fired at once. The staggered, holes appearing in its armor. It tried to swing its blades but was already moving, ducking under the attack and firing point-blank into the creature's chest. The fell. "Keep moving," ordered. "There will be more." There were more, many more. The warriors fought hard. They were born predators, top of their food chain, and they did not know how to surrender. They came at the humans with blades and guns, screaming war cries in their harsh language. But the humans did not break. They did not run. They advanced step by step, clearing each corridor, checking each room. When a soldier fell wounded, another took their place. When they ran into a strong defense, they found another way around. This was what Earth had taught them. This was what millions of years of survival had built into their bones. Never give up. Never stop fighting. Protect your people at any cost. On another deck of the ship, Medic O moved through a corridor that had already been cleared. She was small and did not look like a soldier. Her face was gentle, her hands were soft, and she spoke in a quiet voice. But she had spent 10 years treating wounds in war zones across the galaxy. She had seen things that would break most people. She found the first prisoner in a holding cell. The alien was huddled in the corner, shaking with fear. Its silver skin was marked with cuts and bruises. "It is okay," said softly, kneeling down. "You are safe now. I am a human medic. I am here to help you." They looked up at her with huge, tear-filled eyes. Human, but how? The signal was sent only minutes ago. We were already on our way the moment we received it. Opened her medical kit and began treating the alien's wounds. "Can you walk? We need to get you to the evacuation point." I think so." The stood on shaky legs. "I do not understand. Why did you come? We are nothing to your people. We have no resources, no military value. Why risk your lives for us?" Finished bandaging a cut on the alien's arm, she looked up and smiled. 300 years ago, when the galaxy wanted to lock my people away forever, an ambassador spoke for us. She said we deserved a chance. She said we were not monsters." They stared at her. "We remember," said simply. "Humans always remember. Now come, let us get you home." On the bridge of the flagship, Commander made his last stand. He had gathered his best warriors around him, maybe 20 in total. The rest were dead or had surrendered. His 2 escort ships were destroyed, drifting wreckage in the void. The humans were coming. He could hear them getting closer, their weapons firing, his warriors falling one by one. He had been so confident, so certain that his strength would be enough. They were predators, after all. They had ruled their world for 1,000,000 years. Nothing had ever challenged them. But these humans, they were something else. They did not fight like normal species. They did not hesitate, did not show fear, did not make mistakes. They moved like a single organism, each soldier knowing exactly where the others were, exactly what they needed to do. And they would not stop. Had tried everything. Ambushes, traps, concentrated firepower, nothing worked. The humans just kept coming, adapting to each new tactic, finding solutions to every problem. The door to the bridge exploded inward. Through the smoke came the human soldiers, their armor scorched and dented but their movements still precise. At their head was a young officer with cold eyes. "Surrender," said. His voice was calm, almost bored. "It is over. Your ships are destroyed. Your warriors are defeated. You can die here or you can face justice. Choose." Raised his blades. Around him, his remaining warriors did the same. "Do not surrender," snarled. "We die fighting." Looked at him for a long moment. There was no anger in his eyes, no hatred, just a kind of tired understanding. "That is what the predators always say," he said quietly, "right before they learn they are not the top of the food chain anymore." The fight was short. They were strong, but strength meant nothing against training, technology, and the unbreakable will of soldiers who had evolved on a world that killed the weak. When it was over, lay on the floor of his own bridge, wounded but alive. Had not killed him. The humans wanted prisoners, wanted justice, wanted the galaxy to see what happened to those who attacked their friends. As the medics came to bind his wounds, asked one question. How did you get here so fast? Looked down at him. We have response fleets stationed across the galaxy. Wherever our friends are, we are never far away. He turned to leave, then paused. They spoke for us when no one else would. Did you really think we would abandon them? Had no answer. He was beginning to understand what it meant to threaten the friends of. The battle was over. It had lasted only 4 minutes and 12 seconds from the first shot to the last surrender. 4 minutes to destroy a raiding fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. The station Gentle Dawn still floated in space, damaged but alive. Human engineers were already moving through its corridors, sealing breaches and restoring power. Medical teams treated the wounded, both and the few injured human soldiers. Admiral Park walked through the station himself. He moved slowly, his old boots echoing on the metal floors. He had commanded the battle from his flagship, watching on screens as his fleet tore them apart. Now he wanted to see with his own eyes the people they had saved. The station was a mess. Scorch marks covered the walls. Broken equipment lay scattered everywhere. The smell of smoke and fear hung in the air. But they were alive. 37 scientists who had thought they were going to die. 37 gentle souls who had done nothing wrong except exist in a galaxy that sometimes punished the peaceful. He found Ambassador in the botanical garden. The old was sitting on the floor among her glowing plants. She clutched a small container of seeds to her chest like a child holding a precious toy. Her silver skin was pale, and there were tears on her face. Around her, the luminescent mushrooms she had spent decades studying cast soft blue light on everything. Park approached slowly. He was a soldier, a man who had faced death many times, but something about this elderly alien made him feel humble. "Ambassador," he said softly, "it is over. They have been defeated. You are safe now." Looked up at him. Her large eyes were wet with tears, but there was something else in them too. Wonder, disbelief, hope. "Admiral Park," she whispered, "you came." He knelt down beside her. His old knees protested, but he ignored them. "Of course we came. Did you think we would not?" "The signal was sent only 20 minutes ago. We are so far from Earth, so far from anywhere." Her 4 hands were shaking. "How is this possible?" Park smiled. It was a rare expression for him, and it made his weathered face look younger. "We maintain response fleets at 17 points throughout conquered space, Ambassador. Human ships are always ready, always waiting. We learned long ago that help must be fast to matter." He reached out and gently took one of her trembling hands. "Humanity does not abandon its friends, not ever." Began to cry again, but these were different tears, not fear, not grief, something else, something that had no name in her language. 300 years ago," she said between sobs, "I spoke for your people. I said you deserved a chance. Many called me foolish. They said humans were dangerous, unpredictable, that they would bring chaos to the galaxy." "Many still say that," Park admitted. "They were wrong," gripped his hand with surprising strength. "They were so wrong. You are not chaos. You are loyalty made flesh. You are the promise that no one who helps you will ever be forgotten." The Admiral said nothing. He simply held the old alien's hand and let her cry. Later, when the station was secure and the rescued were being transported to safe harbor, Park returned to his flagship. The bridge crew stood at attention as he entered, but he waved them back to their duties. Lieutenant Commander was waiting for him. "Admiral, the Confederation has filed a formal protest with the Galactic Concord. They claim we violated their territory and attacked without provocation." Park laughed. It was a harsh sound with no humor in it. Provocation. They attacked a peaceful research station, tried to take slaves, and they speak of provocation. "The Concord has scheduled a hearing for next month. They want you to testify." "Good." The Admiral sat down in his command chair. I will be happy to explain to them exactly what happens when someone threatens a human ally. Perhaps the lesson will spread. And spread it did. Within hours, news of the battle reached every corner of the galaxy. The details were shared from station to station, planet to planet. A research station attacked by raiders, a human fleet appearing within minutes, 3 enemy ships destroyed in less than 5 minutes. The message was clear: they protected their friends. Across the galaxy, other species who had shown humanity kindness began receiving quiet messages from Earth's diplomatic offices, who had shared their medical technology, the Hollowborn, who had helped humans build their first interstellar ships, the crystalline mines, who had welcomed human artists to study their ancient music. The message was always the same: you are under our protection. If you call, we will come. Some species did not know how to react. They had never had protectors before. They had always been alone in the darkness of space, hoping that the predators would not find them. Now they had humans watching over them, who remembered every kindness and repaid it 1,000 times over. But the message had another side, a darker side. The predator species of the galaxy took note as well. The slavers, the raiders, the conquerors who had always preyed on the weak. They watched what had happened to and they felt something cold crawl up their spines. The humans remembered their friends. What else did they remember? On a dark station at the edge of known space, a group of warlords gathered to discuss what they had seen. They had been planning a campaign against the Gentle, hoping to capture their worlds and take their technology. Now they looked at each other with new uncertainty. "They traded medicine with the humans 50 years ago," one of them said, a small gesture of goodwill. "And now they are under human protection," another replied, "if we attack them." He did not need to finish the sentence. They all understood. The meeting ended with no attack planned. The warlords went their separate ways, and they never knew how close they had come to invasion. That was the power of what happened at the Gentle Dawn Station. Not just the ships and the guns and the soldiers, but the message that spread across the stars. Humans never forgot. Back on the rescued station, Young sat with her grandmother in the damaged botanical garden. The glowing plants around them still pulsed with soft light, surviving despite everything that had happened. "Grandmother," said quietly, "what you did 300 years ago, speaking for the humans, did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" Was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the seeds in her hands, the same seeds she had been clutching when the Admiral found her. "No," she admitted. "I simply saw a species that deserved a chance. I saw strength and violence, yes, but I also saw loyalty, love, the willingness to sacrifice everything for those they cared about." She smiled, and despite everything she had been through, there was peace in her expression. "I knew that any species with those qualities was worth believing in. I just never imagined how completely they would prove me right." Somewhere in the distance, human ships patrolled the area around the station. They would stay for weeks, making sure no other raiders tried to attack, making sure their friends were safe. Because that was what humans did. They remembered. And they protected. And gods help anyone who threatened the ones they loved.